What's up, DIY Queens? It's your design bestie, Cara Newhart, and this is Make Space.
Welcome back to Make Space. It's still winter, so you might not be ready to rip apart your house yet and do projects, but I wanted to use this episode to kind of talk about how to redo one room at a time, just to get you thinking about the design process and how you can teach yourself to become your own designer and design rooms that work for you. So if you're not a professional designer, or you're not going to do like a whole house renovation all at once, you're likely going to be working one room at a time. Maybe one a year, maybe one after another, just so that it's like approachable, attainable, and that's a way that you can live in your house while you redo it. So I have 11 questions that you can ask yourself to improve any room. And this is kind of my like overview design process for redoing a room. Because I believe that dream homes are created one room at a time. So if you're just starting to rework your house and you're feeling overwhelmed, you can simplify by breaking the process down and focusing on just one space. So I always recommend starting with the room that feels like it has the most problem areas or is causing you the most stress, because that's going to immediately improve your life. Or if everything needs done and it's like, well, every room could use something, start with the room that you use the most, where the changes you make will have a big impact on your day-to-day life. Now, I will say there are some rooms when you're just starting out that are a lot easier to tackle. So like bedrooms, offices, versus things like bathrooms and kitchens. So if you're really new on your design journey, or DIY journey, you can save the big things for later so you can practice your skills and tools on some of the easier spaces. So those are some things to consider when you're deciding what room you should focus on. So I designed these 11 questions that you can ask yourself to help you improve any room so that you can have some help thinking through things like how the room is going to function, how the room is set up to support your everyday life, how you can assess some problem areas in the space, and how to get clear on some specific things you can change in the room that will improve it. So I tried to make these really tangible so we're not just like thinking about design like vaguely. It's like actual practical things you can do in your house. So as you work through these questions, you should have some clear and practical insight into what you need to change. So hopefully this will act as a roadmap as you begin searching for design inspiration and project ideas for the room. So this is something you want to do first to kind of get some clarity before you go dive into Pinterest and start looking at specific paint colors or trends or textures that you like. This will give you context so that when you go to make those design decisions and look for inspiration, you kind of have a reference point for what you need versus just trying to make those decisions in a void. That can be really hard to just make them like on a blank slate. So as you move forward from this assessment into making actual improvements into your space, remember to refer back to your answers so you can make sure that you're in alignment with your goals for the space with each design decision. So like when you go to pick a paint color, reference your 11 questions and kind of see what clarity you have, what goals you have for the room, and then you're not just choosing like the trendiest color. Like you're actually picking something that works for you. Okay, so question number 1 is, what parts of your everyday or weekly routine happen in this room? So this is like design 101, whether I'm doing like client work or whether I'm helping someone learn how to design their own space. The very first thing we talk about is like, what are you actually going to be doing in this room? So I have everybody sit down and write down like a list of activities of what you're going to do. So like if it's a bedroom, you're going to be sleeping. You might have a chair in the corner where you're going to read. You might have storage needs for clothes. You might want a vanity to put on your makeup. So just sit down and think through like your day and write down everything you would be doing in the room. This, if you can't think of it, you can also like carry around a paper or have a paper in the room. And then as you go about your day, just jot down what you're doing. If you aren't necessarily aware of what you do in that room every day. But this is going to give you some clarity into what you actually need in your room for your daily routine. So that's going to help you then match up like, okay, here's what I need to do. Now, what things can I select that's going to help make that part of my day, part of my routine easier? And that's tangible things like furniture pieces, but that's also intangible things like decor and lighting that are going to help create a vibe in the space as you do your routine. So, yeah, just take a second and jot down everything you do in the room. Question number 2 is, how does this room support those parts of your routine? So for this question, you want to list some specific ways or features the room has that helps with this. So if it's a kitchen and you're making your coffee, like you might want to have a designated coffee bar. And this is kind of a time to highlight like maybe some problem areas. So like let's say in the kitchen in the morning, it's very hectic because there's lunches getting packed and you and your partner or kids are all in there. And it would be just nicer to have kind of zones for everything to happen so everyone's not running into each other. So this is when we're kind of looking at like, okay, here's what we need to do in this room every day. And here is a way we could make that flow better. So it might be like, okay, we need to have the coffee out of the way so that the person making lunches and the person making coffee aren't running into each other. It could be in a living room, like, which is another really multi-use space. There's, maybe a homework table and also a TV and a couch and maybe lots of storage for toys and games. And so this is really where you're kind of looking at the room and almost creating like zones for each of the activities that you're going to be doing in that room. This isn't like you have to sit down and actually think through like, what size bookshelf do I need for the games? It's like, where would it make the most sense for this activity to take place? And what are the overall elements that I would need? So storage, a bookcase, a dresser, very big kind of like general items. And then later, when you make those design decisions, you can say what kind of dresser, what color, what size. But you're kind of getting clear on like the actual tangible elements needed. Like, is there more lighting needed? That kind of thing. So this is when we're taking our routine and we're trying to translate it into our space, into our physical environment, and assess what kinds of things we need to support that. Okay, question number 3, is there a problem area in this room? So how do we find problem areas? Well, this can be an area that is messy or cluttered often, is an eyesore, or is something that doesn't function well. Problem areas can also be determined by asking yourself, when I think of my ideal version of this room and compare it to the space I have now, what is missing? So remember that our homes are environments. They are living, breathing, always in flux, always evolving. It's not a staged, stagnant space. And so as things are moving in flux, as we move things around with our daily routine, there's going to be areas that aren't functioning well. And the way to identify those is the areas where clutter piles up, where it's like the room that you close the door because you don't want to remember it exists, which is oftentimes for people like an office or a guest room where you kind of stash stuff when you don't have time to fully go through it. And we all do that. Like, it's nothing to feel bad about. So instead of feeling bad about the areas where there's clutter, where, the problem areas in your house that you really want to change, just use those as a visual cue of where you could make changes or tackle projects in your home that would actually really improve your daily life. And then it becomes easier to see like where to focus your attention versus what's working, what areas stay organized and are easy to function in. So find the problem area and try to figure out like what's happening. Is it that when you walk in the door, there's nowhere to put your shoes? Like, there's no shoe storage. So everybody takes off their shoes and there they are and they get tripped over. Is it that in your bedroom, you don't have enough storage? So all the clothes get piled on the chair. And if you had maybe a larger dresser or even some wall hooks to hang things up on, you'd have a place to put that versus piling it in the chair. So look at the areas and think like, why is this happening? Like, what could be in this room that would help me not to have this habit of things piling up? And it could be a basket. It could be as simple as like having, like a basket to throw stuff in so that it's visually out of the way and you know where it is when you need it. But yeah, problem areas is not like everyone has them, and it's just a normal thing of like living in a house, like just like it gets dirty and it needs to be swept. Things just build up and get cluttered as we move things around and exist in our homes. So don't feel bad about those areas. Instead, just look at them as like opportunities, because they can be fixed. And when you kind of bring some intentionality to them and think through like what could make it better, you'll be able to come up with a solution where it makes your life easier and it makes it prettier. Okay, question number 4. Is the problem aesthetic or functional? So an aesthetic problem would be something like an ugly paint color. A functional problem would be clothes piling up on the floor because there's nowhere to put them. So clutter is functional. Anything that's like relates to like what you're actually doing would be functional. Things that relate to how you're feeling or the vibe the space is giving is aesthetic. So maybe you're super organized, but the room just doesn't feel like it has personality. There's lots of blank walls. Maybe there's not enough lighting, not enough decor on the wall. That can be problem areas also, and figuring out like what kind of problem area they are helps you know what solution. A lot of times I see people trying to solve functional problems with aesthetic solutions. So they're looking at a cluttered area of their house and then they're going on Pinterest to find a pretty space and trying to recreate that space, thinking it's going to solve like the build up functional problem. And that's a really easy mistake to make. But once you can kind of sort out in your brain that these are two different things you need to tackle, you need to figure out function, how it works, and aesthetics, how it looks and feels. And when you can balance both of those, you have a really good space. So try to look at this problem area and figure out, is the problem how I feel in the space and how it looks, or is it how it's working day to day? Okay, question number 5. What do you love about the way this room is organized? This question I love, first of all, because it's helping us not to be overly critical of our spaces by only looking for what's wrong. But also, I think when we can really pay attention to what we've done right and figure out why it's working, then that can really help us figure out how to fix the other things when you don't know where to start. So look around the room and figure out like, how have you set things up to support your life? How are things working in this space? And what do you love about that? Because that's kind of your recipe for how you can make the other spaces work better. So this could be everything's really easy to put away because you have enough storage. Everything has a place. You have really good systems. Like you're really good about having a routine to clean the space once or twice a week. Like, for example, your kitchen island. Maybe you are really good about having a routine of every night clearing off all the weird stuff that piles up on the island so that it looks clear. So this could be like cleaning routines, like you clean the kitchen every night and close it down so that you wake up to a clean kitchen. It could be just routines of like laundry or just kind of how you like move things around your space and how they're organized. So list some things you're doing right in this room and try to figure out why they're working. And once you can figure out why, that's going to help you know what to do in the other areas. Question number 6. What could be better about storage? So storage is like a huge topic because I think we just have too much stuff. So storage is always like a big focus in our spaces because there's just a lot of stuff to deal with. And so this can look like, the balance of decluttering, getting rid of stuff, but also having enough storage for the stuff you have. Because a lot of what I see is like people actually aren't bad at organizing. There's just too much stuff to deal with. Like it's just too much physical things to move around and it takes too long. And it's not realistic to think that you can deal with all of that stuff every day or every week. And so everyone's threshold for how much stuff they can manage is different. And it can be made easier or harder based on the storage. So organization is only about just things having a place and being able to easily put them back in that place so that they're easy to find and they stay out of the floor and in, a place that makes sense. So identifying what could be better in this room about storage. If it's a bedroom, like, do you need storage under the bed because it's really small, the closet's tiny? Like, where can you squeeze out extra spaces where you can store things? For small spaces, this also looks like going vertical. So adding shelves and vertical storage where a piece of furniture might not fit, but you can store more things in baskets in a visually appealing way, and really maximizing the space you do have. So unconventional storage like behind the door, under the bed, storage ottomans, shelving, baskets. There's a lot of ways you can squeeze in extra storage, even couches. Like there's couches that lift up and have storage. So take a look around your room and see if you notice any areas you could squeeze in extra storage. Or notice if the problem is just you need less stuff. Like you want to have less stuff, and maybe that's where you want to focus your attention. So think through that one. Okay, question number 7, compare and contrast. How does this room make you feel versus how do you want to feel in this room? So this is like if you walk into the space, like your first impression, like when you first walk in, what feelings does it bring up for you? Do you feel overwhelmed because there's a lot of stuff? Do you feel like, wow, this room really captures my personality? Do you feel relaxed because you picked a really good paint color and it helps you feel like soothed, or the lighting's really good? And so just kind of notice the feelings that you have about this room, whether it's like the bad one, not bad, whether it's more negative feelings like shame or feeling guilty, or whether it's positive feelings like you're feeling really supported in your space. And then how do you want to feel in this room? Like, is the feeling that it gives the feeling you want to have every time? And so for spaces like entryways or garages or areas that are really functional that need good storage, this is like where you want to feel like when you come home, you're not overwhelmed and you're not immediately walking into stuff and tripping over stuff. So those can be huge, like transition spaces, helping you transition from being out to coming home. And the first spaces you see and interact with can set the tone for that, which is interesting. Your bedroom and spaces like living rooms, bedrooms, places where you unwind and relax, are going to have a different vibe than places you hang out and are more energized, whether that's the kitchen or game rooms or stuff like that. So depending on the room, it's going to have a feeling that you want, or feelings if it's used for multiple things. But trying to get clear on that can be really helpful in helping you pick design elements. And I will say some people, the function makes more sense, like the 3D tangible, like how is it going to work? And other people resonate more with the how things are going to feel and look, because as we've talked about on the show before, there's kind of a spectrum between function and aesthetics, and where you are on that sliding scale is your own personal preference. I like to be right in the middle where things are functional and beautiful and reach like a perfect balance. But some people are a little more on either side, and that's totally okay. But trying to figure that out of what your personal preference is, like you might be okay with the space not looking like overly done or a Pinterest photo, but it works really well for you. And that's what you want your home to be. Or you may need things to feel beautiful because a beautiful space really feels energizing to you, and something that reflects your personality and your creativity helps you feel inspired. And so you're going to focus more on decor and aesthetics, and that actually makes an impact in your life. And so wherever you are, kind of assessing the feeling of how the room feels helps you get clear on where you might be on that sliding scale, and also what might need to change. Again, if you're feeling overwhelmed, that might be a function problem, or if you're feeling uninspired, that might be an aesthetics problem. So thinking through that. Question number 8, do you feel like this room reflects your style and conveys the vibe you want? So I do have a couple episodes all about finding your style, and we talk about how your style isn't necessarily a collection of descriptive words like farmhouse or modern. It is your own unique creative point of view and your own unique voice. And that can be something that takes a while to kind of curate and figure out. It can take a lot of trial and error. And a lot of times when we're first starting out with figuring out what our style is, we are just kind of emulating other people's styles and testing them out, like test driving them to see if we like them. And it's kind of like if you've ever taken an art class where you learn about a specific kind of artist and then you kind of practice like doing art in their style, you kind of get the hang of things by copying and emulating. And then you learn to find your own voice. So it's not something where it's like you don't have style and you're not creative and you're born that way. It's something where you really have to take time to nurture your creative point of view and explore things and try things. And this can be a lifelong process. So give yourself a little bit of grace. But with this question, it's kind of more like, does this room feel like you? Or does it feel like if someone were to see this room and see you, they'd be like, that doesn't belong to them. So yeah, assess kind of maybe if there's specific things like, okay, this is not the right paint color for my style. I want it to be moodier, or this is not the right furniture style for what I want my creative voice to be. And so maybe try to tie it to specific elements and find specific things in your space that are working that feel like, yeah, that's me, that's my style. And things that are like, I don't know if that's my style, or that doesn't feel like it fits. I don't know if that's working. So figuring that out. Question number 9. What are some essential elements that you could incorporate or rearrange to completely transform this room? So for this one, you can pick 5 things to start and get clear on how they could positively impact the room, both from an aesthetic point of view and function perspective. Crushed it. Okay, so this one, we are looking at actual design elements like a paint color, a mirror, a finish, a piece of furniture, a piece of art. And we're considering that item for how it looks, like how it's going to help with the aesthetic transformation, and how it functions, like what it's actually going to do for the space. And so this is kind of helping you practice taking all this thinking we've been doing about what works in our house for us and translating it into actual physical items. So when you find a rug, if the rug is extra fuzzy and fluffy and aesthetically you're like, yeah, that's the vibe I'm going for. But day to day, the rug's going to be really hard to clean. People are going to get gum stuck in the rug or slime, or it's white and it's really going to be hard to get stains out. That's something that might be aesthetically correct based on your style, but functionally, it might not be the best choice for the space. So when we're picking design elements, we want to make sure it can do both things well. So we're not picking things just because they're pretty, and we're not picking things just because they work. We're finding something that we feel good about and can actually function in our space. So this question helps you think through how a specific item can do that in your room. Okay, question number 10. What is one thing you could change, add, or remove to transform this room? So I like this question because when you are redoing an entire room, or you want to, or you're looking around your house and you're just overwhelmed and you're like, there's so much that I need to change for this to feel like me. It can be overwhelming. It can feel like out of reach, essentially, that it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of money. But realistically, like, it doesn't have to be done all at once. It doesn't have to be done overnight. The internet has totally set us up for failure with like before and afters because it seems so quick and instant, and it's really not. It's a journey and it's a process, and it's fun when you embrace it as that. But finding just one specific thing you could change is amazing because it's like a tangible step you can take right now. So whether you're adding something like a basket or a lamp or a throw blanket, whether you're removing something like a big chunky piece of furniture that is just taking up way too much space and the drawers stick and we need it out, or you're just changing something like a paint color or a throw pillow or a nightstand, there's like one thing you can do that's going to improve the room. And so when you can kind of break it down into one thing at a time and build like, okay, we're going to switch this out. We're going to do this paint color, which means now I could do this rug that matches the paint color, and if I do this rug, this art would look really good. And your design decisions can sort of build on each other, so it doesn't feel like you're starting from scratch trying to do a whole room in one go, which is very overwhelming. So pick one thing you can change and change it. Bonus points if you actually dive in and do it. But also if you just have it in your brain of something you want to tackle later this year, and you're just kind of noticing like, okay, I'm going to be keeping an eye out for a new dresser on Facebook Marketplace that's this size, and we're getting this old one out as soon as possible. That works too. Okay, the final question number 11, is create a game plan for this space. What are 3 tangible action steps you can take to improve this room? So this is similar to the last one, but it's a little bigger. So where the last question is about changing one specific thing that maybe you could do quickly. This is about like when we're going to redo the whole room, like what are the 3 biggest things we need to tackle? So it might be repainting the room. It might be ripping out some built-ins that are horrible and old and not working at all. It might be switching out the carpet and getting some flooring. So the 3 tangible things are the 3 biggest changes you could make that would transform this room. And a big change doesn't mean like it's hard or expensive. It just means like the most impactful. So it could be just a dresser. It could be just a lamp, but it's things that are going to make the biggest transformation. And so when you're kind of thinking through these action steps, reference what you worked through before about like what you want, what your everyday routine looks like, how you want things to feel, what your design style is. And it might take some back and forth where it's trial and error, and you need to just kind of like maybe you do need to look on Pinterest for inspiration of like things you could do, and kind of filter it through your answers to the questions to be like, does this actually work for me in my space? And come up with action steps that's going to help you know what to actually do, so that you're not just spending time like wishing your house was different or feeling overwhelmed that you don't know where to start. You have actual tangible things that you know you can do to make the space better. And you can tackle those at your own pace, whether it's you want to do it in a weekend all at once, or you want to take your time looking for things, sourcing things, figuring that out. So those are my 11 questions for improving any room. And you can start today working through these. It can be a process that you do in a weekend. It can be a process that you take a long time to intentionally do. The pace doesn't matter. Like the pace is up to you and what you want to accomplish. But hopefully that gives you like a tangible structure for a design process where you can be your own designer and you don't feel like you're just going to Pinterest to copy and paste inspiration because you don't know what else to do, which is totally okay. That's where a lot of us start. And also there's a really good episode on the show, if you scroll down, about how to use Pinterest as a tool to inform your design decisions instead of just having it be like the Bible or copy and paste from it, using it as a tool to find inspiration and translate it into your actual space in a way that feels like it's yours and it's what you want. So go check out that episode. And if you liked these questions, these are actually from my book, which is the Make Space Journal. It's a semi-guided journal with little prompts to help you think through your spaces so you can figure out what you actually want out of your home and become your own designer to make that happen. So if you want that, search Make Space Journal on Amazon and you can grab one, and it's really cute, this little floral pattern. So you can use it on a bookshelf to decorate too. So those are my 11 questions. Send me a DM at Make Space Pod if you have any thoughts, comments, feedback, questions. We will be doing another question episode coming up soon. So let me know if you have questions about this process, or you just want to share some realizations you had or changes you're making in your space. I would love to hear from you. So at Make Space Pod on Instagram, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening. And if you've got more episodes to catch up on, binge on. Don't let me stop you. But if you've got a second, you should come say hi on Insta at Make Space Pod. And if you're an overachiever, you can also leave a review and I'll love you forever. If you're new here, hit that follow button to officially become a DIY queen and join all the amazing humans tuning in every week.